しい制服は着替えたロケットの搭乗員あやがち夢中で形も悪くはないみたいだし目にした自由でなんか自分探し怖いこんにちはこんにちは怖いこんにちはこんにちは怖いこんにちは
𝐸₽ was known as a lazy, womanizing man, yet his reputation as a brilliant strategist and tactician was undeniable. His sole desire in life was to pursue peace, but his longtime friend Yatori eventually convinced him to sit for the officer examination and join the military effort. Reluctantly, 𝐸₽ agreed. However, after he and his team rescued the princess, they found themselves thrust into the limelight. 𝐸₽, in particular, was promptly granted the titles of Imperial Knight, Soldier, and Hero, 3 roles he had never wished to bear. This was only the beginning of his journey, yet 𝐸₽ would one day be remembered as the invincible sloth. As Shakespeare once wrote, "Some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them." The conflict was set against the backdrop of the 𝐴ᴛᴜ Empire, which was locked in a losing war against the neighboring Republic of Kyoka. 𝐸₽, an orphan within the empire, doubted that 𝐴ᴛᴜ could ever hope for victory. Yielding to persistent encouragement from Yatori, herself the daughter of the famed 𝐒ᴜ noble family renowned for their martial prowess, 𝐸₽ agreed to enlist. Upon boarding their ship, 𝐸₽ and Yatori were introduced to their cabin mates. Hiroma, an attractive woman and the eldest of 5 siblings, was accompanied by her water spirit Mill. 𝐸₽ wasted no time attempting to charm her, in line with his reputation. There was also Matthew, a stout man from the minor Tedric family, self-conscious about his lineage's lower status, and bonded to the wind spirit, Tsu. Torway, renowned for his marksmanship and good looks, bore the wind spirit Safi. 𝐸₽ found himself irritated by Torway's appearance. As the ship set sail, Yatori noticed a young girl lingering near their door, which was suspicious given the prohibition against civilians aboard. Suddenly, a violent disturbance sent the passengers tumbling, and Yatori watched as water began to flood their cabin. The group was quickly escorted to the lifeboats. 𝐸₽ leapt into action when he saw the young girl fall overboard, diving into the water to rescue her. Upon regaining consciousness, the group addressed the girl as Shamil, revealing her identity as the 3rd princess of 𝐴ᴛᴜ. As they recovered, Matthew, shivering from the ordeal, requested the return of his jacket. Surveying their surroundings, 𝐸₽ and Torway realized they were stranded behind enemy lines in Kyoka. 𝐸₽ initially suggested that surrender might be the least dangerous option, but Shamil refused. The group resorted to surviving through foraging and hunting over the next several days. During this period, Shamil assisted 𝐸₽ in constructing a hammock, which he allowed her to use. They soon spotted a Kyoka scout blimp, prompting 𝐸₽ to rush Shamil to safety. That night, Shamil was nearly apprehended by Kyoka scouts. However, 𝐸₽ deliberately revealed himself to draw the enemies away. Feigning the role of an asylum seeker, 𝐸₽ lowered his adversary's guard and allowed his team to eliminate the enemy scouts one by one. Interrogating one of the surviving scouts, he demanded information about the location of their base and blimp. He collected the soul stones of the defeated enemy sprites, promising to return them to the nearest church. 𝐸₽'s plan unfolded the next day. Pretending to be a Kyoka soldier who had captured enemies, he met with the local commander and fabricated a story about the stolen blimp. He claimed that the thief would only return the blimp if his family were permitted safe passage home. Pressured by time constraints, the commander agreed to his demands. Upon returning to 𝐴ᴛᴜ, the squad was celebrated as heroes throughout the empire. A month later, 𝐸₽ and his friends were relaxing at the imperial palace when they received troubling news. The eastern region of 𝐴ᴛᴜ had fallen, and the esteemed General Riktan had been killed in battle, exactly as 𝐸₽ had predicted. Summoned to the capital, Banahatal, they were all made imperial knights. 𝐸₽ was openly furious at the appointment. Shamila later confessed that she had used them as political tools to boost morale after the defeat in the east. She also revealed her knowledge of 𝐸₽'s background. His father, Bada Sankre, had been a brilliant general executed for disobedience. His mentor, Anrai, had sought asylum in Kyoka, and his mother, Yuka, was a woman taken from Kyoka and given to his father as a prize. 𝐸₽, enraged, threatened Shamila, prompting Yatori to restrain him physically. During a celebration feast, the rest of the group was given back their former weapons, which General Riktan had arranged to be retrieved before his death. Confiding in Yatori, 𝐸₽ lamented that he had become within a single day, the exact things he had hoped never to be: a noble, a soldier, and a hero. As new Imperial Knights, 𝐸CTA and the group received immediate admission to a prestigious officer training school. 𝐸CTA struggled with the physical demands, but excelled in tactical theory, astonishing both his classmates and instructor. 𝐴 continued to demonstrate his prowess as a marksman, attracting the scorn of his brothers, ♑ and ᴑᴘᴜ, who belittled 𝐴's performance during Shamil's rescue and called him a coward. 𝐸CTA defended 𝐴, provoking ♑ into violence. Shamil and Yatori arrived just in time, with Yatori effortlessly subduing the remaining aggressors. ♑ vowed retribution before retreating. 3 months later, the group faced a practical challenge: leading a platoon in a military exercise. 𝐸CTA was assigned to the 3rd Battalion of the Light Troops, where he encountered Sergeant sᴜᴘ, the mother of a former fling, leading to instant mistrust from the unit and resistance to his command. During preparation for the mock battle against ♑, ᴑᴘᴜ, and Yatori, 𝐸CTA discovered that sᴜᴘ doubted his leadership due to his perceived physical weakness rather than any personal grudge. He struck a deal. Should he lead them to victory, she would accept his authority. If not, he would accept a desk job. On the day of the exercise, 𝐸CTA instructed his troops to discard unnecessary gear and establish camp by the Kuriri River, defying standard tactics and leaving sᴜᴘ astonished. ♑ soon realized that 𝐸CTA had outmaneuvered him, camping further south than anticipated. As ♑ led a hurried march, 𝐸CTA's men crossed the river on a hidden bridge of felled trees and caught him by surprise, seizing victory. ♑'s subsequent ambush deep in the forest failed. 𝐸CTA positioned his platoon to block his opponent's retreat, clinching the win. 𝐴 demonstrated his sniping prowess by neutralizing ♑ from a distance, resulting in the light troops' triumph. 𝐸CTA, however, reprimanded 4 men, 𝐺WEMP, 𝐼ᴇ, 𝐵AO, and ᴬᴜ, for ignoring orders, admonishing them to embrace his philosophy. A lazy war is an easy war, which the troops applauded. Elsewhere, Shamil was lured into the forest and kidnapped by Captain 𝐼ᴇ, a former subordinate of General Riktan seeking revenge. Yatori intervened, forcing 𝐼ᴇ to release Shamil. 𝐴 eliminated 𝐼ᴇ from afar, and Yatori decimated the remaining traitors. 𝐸CTA arrived and empathized with 𝐼ᴇ's motives. Before dying, 𝐼ᴇ remarked that 𝐸CTA's strategies resembled those of Bada Sankre. 𝐸CTA attempted to comfort Shamil, but inadvertently caused her to cry. In the past, Yatori had studied abroad under Bada Sankre, where she met 𝐸CTA and the eccentric Dr. ♑. ♑ instructed her in science, teaching her how to make new flavors of ice cream. 𝐸CTA, noticing her formality, coaxed her into mischief, playing pranks on generals, stealing from the kitchen, and playing chess at his home. He once invited Yatori to become a scientist alongside him, aspiring to unlock the world's secrets, but she remained resolute in her duty as an 𝐒ᴇm and a soldier. During a mountain survey with 𝐵AJIN and his wife, Yatori and 𝐸CTA were left alone when the latter returned to camp for forgotten tools. Trapped indoors by wolves, they used their ingenuity and limited resources to survive, constructing traps and making a stand. When the wolves breached the cabin, they retreated into a panic room. Yatori considered sacrificing herself so 𝐸CTA could escape, but he rebuked her, promising to always be her support. Together, they set the house ablaze and managed to escape, fending off the last wolves. After this, Bada Sankre was arrested, and 𝐸CTA and his mother disappeared. Years later, Yatori reunited with 𝐸CTA, who again asked her to join him. News arrived that ♑'s box, a trove of research data, would be disclosed. 𝐸CTA explained to Hiroma that the box contained research with military applications, part of ♑'s asylum arrangement with Kyoka, and predicted its release would transform warfare. Soon afterward, 𝐸CTA, Matthew, and 𝐴 were assigned to a 6-month term at the northern garrison near the Sinac tribes. Matthew expected a dull assignment, but 𝐸CTA teased him with rumors of the Sinac's matriarchal customs, piquing his interest. Upon arrival, they endured a lengthy speech by Lieutenant General Tamtuksk and met Major Yukshiram, who allocated their battalions. 𝐸CTA encountered First Lieutenant Sempa and his commanding officer. Warrant Officer Denkun challenged Yatori to a duel and lost. 𝐸CTA explained to his friends that the 𝐒ᴇ family's signature was their unique dual-wielding swordsmanship, underscoring the military's reliance on soldiers like Yatori for the empire's stability. During a scouting mission, Sempa extolled the formidable Alafatra Mountains, which protected the region. 𴑖ᴇʟ, missing from the exercise, had intervened to save Private Kana from a corrupt officer confiscating and reselling books. Recognizing her as another follower of Dr. Anarai, 𝑖ᴇʟ bonded with her. Senpa punished 𝑖ᴇʟ, but he escaped, only to discover something ominous in the dungeons. Thousands of sprites, evidently stolen from the Sinac tribes, on Tamtuksk's orders, meant to demoralize them. Kana impressed 𝑖ᴇʟ with her understanding of religious differences between the Sinac and the Katvarnans. Meanwhile, the Sinac chieftain, Nanaku, prepared to attack the garrison, while 𝑖ᴇʟ, exhausted from Senpa's punishment, recovered with his friends. The next day, during an escort mission, 𝑖ᴇʟ stowed away in a cart, later exploring the nearby town with Kana. He confirmed that Tamtuksk delegated everything except conflicts with the Sinac, for which he took direct control. The sprite theft was intended to sap their morale, and, judging by recent inactivity, it had succeeded. Major Yukshirum's unit was soon ambushed by the Sinac and slaughtered. Yatori gave chase, and at a gorge, Nanaku declared a holy war against Katvarna in retaliation for their oppression and, most importantly, the theft of spirits. Tamtuksk greeted the news as an excuse for a purge, while 𝑖ᴇʟ doubted the usage of the phrase holy war, suspecting manipulation by outside forces. Shamil was sent to the rear for safety and bade her friends a hopeful goodbye. The war escalated into a devastating civil conflict. Despite heavy casualties and unfamiliar terrain, Tamtuksk refused to retreat. 𝑖ᴇʟ criticized the upper command for their inflexibility and for ordering perilous missions. Kana's unit was stationed in an abandoned fortress, which proved to be a trap by the Sinac. When 𝑖ᴇʟ and his friends reunited with Hiroma, their commanding officer panicked during a nighttime Sinac attack. 𝑖ᴇʟ took charge, organizing a staunch defensive and routing the enemy with no losses. Kana, eager for their next encounter, was trapped with her unit as the fortress was overrun. In response to a desperate situation, 𝑖ᴇʟ declared he could recapture the fortress within an hour if given command of all platoons. Utilizing Anarai's newly developed air rifles, 𝑖ᴇʟ's forces launched a successful counteroffensive. Rushing to the garrison further up the mountain, he discovered it completely destroyed and mourned the death of Kana, evidenced by her hair tie and lifeless body. At the front lines, Senda, now promoted to captain, merged the various platoons into a single company and appointed 𝑖ᴇʟ as commander. Senda outlined their final objective, a three-pronged assault on the main Sinac village, beginning with burning Sinac homes. 𝑖ᴇʟ decried Tamtuksk's brutal, pseudo-scientific strategy. While herding villagers to refugee camps, 𝑖ᴇʟ was attacked by an angry child, but Dankun intervened. As they set up camp, Matthew sparked a humorous exchange about the soldiers' coping mechanisms, prompting the sword troops to salute him as a lonely warrior. Ascending the mountains, 𝑖ᴇʟ persuaded Senda to recommend deploying shields on their flanks, a timely precaution as they were beset by enemy sharpshooters and the Sinac. The arrival of Kyoka's elite assassin unit, the Kala Karm, targeted Tamtuksk. Yatori successfully countered Nanaku's unorthodox swordsmanship, ultimately destroying her wind spirit, although the subsequent explosion allowed Nanaku to escape. During the chaos, Dankun was killed. Nanaku, grievously wounded, returned to her burning village, haunted by memories of a childhood encounter with 𝑖ᴇʟ. During a desperate fight against the invading soldiers, she was nearly overpowered until 𝑖ᴇʟ intervened and saved her. The war officially ended, providing a brief respite, but external cavalry from the Holy Aldera Empire, citing abuses against spirits, invaded and declared war. With the exhausted Katvarna army numbering fewer than 8,000 facing an enemy force of 12,000, Senda, guided by 𝑖ᴇʟ, drafted a retreat plan relying on a 600-man delaying force. 𝑖ᴇʟ volunteered to lead the delay and freed Nanaku, offering an apology according to the Sinac custom by cutting off his finger. Nanaku recognized him from her childhood and agreed to request reinforcements, motivated by 𝑖ᴇʟ's guarantee of religious freedom, which revealed that the Kyoka Empire had orchestrated much of the conflict. Senda soon promoted 𝑖ᴇʟ and Yatori to first lieutenant, while Matthew, Hiroma, and Torway became second lieutenants. 𝑖ᴇʟ's last act before the retreat was to set fire to the Gogol Kasakan forest, stalling the Alderan advance. The maneuver stunned the enemy generals, who summoned Radiant Officer Jean, a Kyoka army commander renowned for his hard work and strategic genius, said to be 𝑖ᴇʟ's equal, yet his opposite. Jean countered 𝑖ᴇʟ by burning the forest on the opposite side, and guessed that he faced a tactician of equal brilliance. 𝐿İkta then lured the Alderamin center into the woods, hoping to force a pitched battle and deny them the use of a vulnerable mountain pass. In the following night assault, the enemy erected wooden stakes to cripple 𝐴ᴛᴜ's cannons. While Senda dispatched Yatori and Nanaku to clear the obstacles, an overextended advance left Nanaku exposed and Matthew wounded by air rifle fire. The situation appeared critical when the enemy deployed a siege ladder, but 𝐿İkta made the decision to commit his forces, ordering a charge and using suppressive fire to rescue the wounded and burn their barricades. Although they failed to maintain their advantage, Jin acknowledged the presence of a master tactician on the battlefield. Casualties mounted, and 𝐿İkta clashed with Seiyu over the value of sacrificing lives for the Sinak. Yatori defended his decisions, explaining the soldiers' duty to follow orders even against personal beliefs. Seiyu asked Yatori if she would kill 𝐿İkta if ordered, and Yatori replied that she would do so without hesitation. Jin soon discovered that Yatori was not the tactical mastermind and suspected 𝐿İkta's involvement. Later, reports reached the company of an approaching Alderamin cavalry force. Senda, trusting 𝐿İkta's command, set out with Torway's sharpshooters to intercept. 𝐿İkta embraced a strategy of mobile, lazy war to maintain morale and resilience over 7 days. By the third day, Matthew's unit encountered the enemy, while Senda's position was held with Sinak air mortars. 𝐿İkta became suspicious of enemy blimp and cavalry movements. Torway foiled an assassination attempt on their rearguard, annihilating the Kyokan attackers in an ambush. Despite this, the Alderans at the main fortress called for an assault. 𝐿İkta received word of the victory and shared a meal with Yatori, reflecting nostalgically on the fading era of sword-based warfare. The following day, 𝐿İkta learned that the Alderans had brought air howitzers to the front, technology even more taboo among them than airships. Even more alarming, cavalry units emerged suddenly, revealing that the enemy had been conducting maneuvers in secret. With only 2 days left before retreat, 300 Alderamin cavalry broke through, threatening catastrophe. Leaving Matthew in charge, 𝐿İkta took Yatori and Nanaku on a special mission to lure Jin's troops closer. Jin, seeing the path covered in straw and the smell of oil, prepared for a fire attack. 𝐿İkta's troops, concealed under the straw, burst out, taking the enemy by surprise and breaking the battle into chaos. 𝐿İkta signaled for negotiations, anticipating Jin's willingness to parley. In the ensuing negotiations, Jian, initially assuming Yatori was the commander, was surprised to face 𝐿İkta. 𝐿İkta demanded the withdrawal of Jin's forces to allow 𝐴ᴛᴜ's retreat, threatening to have Torway assassinate him. Despite suspecting a bluff, Jin conceded. 𝐿İkta left Jin with a warning against overwork. Jin vowed to spend his life proving 𝐿İkta wrong. 𝐿İkta then collapsed from his wounds and exhaustion. As the army retreated, Nerva, the lone surviving member of Kala Karm, challenged Yatori. Demonstrating her formidable blank sword technique that obscured her movements, Yatori triumphed. When the group returned, Shamil rejoiced at their survival, despite 𝐿İkta's loss of his pinky finger. Subsequently, Tamtuksk faced a court-martial and execution for his mismanagement. Later, Shamil asked 𝐿İkta for his opinion on the Kārtvarna Empire. He replied that the nation was declining, corrupt, and incompetent. In response, Shamil made an unusual request. She asked 𝐿İkta to ascend to the highest echelons of the military, and when the time came, to lose the war in a manner that would entice Kyokan reform into the empire. Thus, 𝐿İkta's greatest challenge awaited, to deliberately lose a war without total defeat. With that said, thanks for watching, and we encourage you to subscribe, enable notifications, and like the video to support the channel.